It's time for another edition of Lewis at Large, 60 minutes of smart talk radio featuring guests from all walks of life in conversation with your host, Warner Lewis. So sit back and lend us your ears for the next hour. Now here with today's first guest is the host of Lewis at Large, Warner Lewis.
Well, welcome everybody to another segment of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis from the Flight Deck. And of course, as always, that means some smart talk radio is in your future, and got a fun segment for you this time. We're going to be talking to Larry Powalisz, and who is he? Well, he is many things, but he is a devotee of our national park system, and he and his wife have not only traveled there, but have put together several works for young people about taking a hike through the Grand Canyon, going to Mount Rainier, and a third book coming on soon talking about Yosemite. One of the works we'll be talking about is Grand Color Spectacle, our national park treasures. We will find out more. Larry, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Warner, yourself?
We're good here. Boy, the national parks, quite a collection that we have in North America. We're very fortunate to have them, are we not?
We certainly are.
What about, well, anyway, give our Lewis at Large listeners a little bit more background about you. And again, I can understand the travel, but why did you all decide on putting together a series for children?
Well, I'm a career law enforcement officer, and when the kids were younger, we have two children, we used to take them to the national parks. I lived in Wisconsin, but I've always dreamt of going to the parks. We wanted them to also enjoy the beauty and grandeur of the parks. So we started taking them there, and about 10 years ago, we had this idea to start writing books. So it takes a while to get things going, but we finally did.
So how do you get, well, first of all, let's tell us the names of all three. You've got two out, but you've got a third, correct?
Yes. The first one is Grand Color Spectacle, which is based on Grand Canyon National Park. Then the next one is Ice Blue Grandeur, Ice Blue Magic. I always forget which one is which. That one takes them to Mount Rainier, and that's where they meet up with a guy, and they start going on a treasure hunt through all the different national parks to look for that treasure, wherever that may be, which will be in the final book. And the next one, they then go to Yosemite. We'll also be going to Glacier and a couple other parks.
Who did all the writing and the illustration for this? Because that's quite a bit of work to put all this together.
I had originally written a book about 10 years ago called The Island Treasure Hunt, and that was strictly illustrations. And it was rather costly. Plus, we wanted to have the children see how spectacular the parks are. So what we're doing now is taking our characters, two fictional characters and a dog, photoshopping them onto pictures of the park to show how beautiful the parks are. There's no comparison between a picture and an illustration.
So what about, beyond just visiting there, what kind of research went into this book?
As far as, I have a lot of latitude, longitude things, because that's part of the thing as far as looking for the various treasures. So it's educational, entertaining. To me, for children, the classroom is the best place as far as being in the national parks. You can read about a park, or you can go to it, see it, feel it, and be part of it.
What about, tell us about your own kids, and tell us about, if there are grandkids in the picture, who was kind of your test market on all this stuff?
I had a couple of friends who are probably, their children are between 10 and, well, I would say 8 to 12. I had them read it, see if it's okay for them. Our children are 30 and 32, and now we have grandkids who are pretty small yet. But 2 years ago, my wife and I celebrated our 35-year anniversary. We brought all the family out to Crater Lake National Park, which is pretty amazing. It's in Oregon.
So tell us, when you and the family, when you all visit, is this a big camper and you camp out there, or tell us the mode of your transportation and how you take these in, because these are large endeavors?
When we stayed either at hotels, like in Grand Canyon, there's about 7 or 8 hotels in the park, and there's some outside. We stayed at a hotel in the park where you're right on the rim, which is pretty amazing. Now, they can be expensive, but you're talking about family vacation. But they're amazing. We stayed at camping in Glacier, Grand Canyon, and Yellowstone. We camped in a tent. Now, some you can and some you can't, because there are grizzly bears in glaciers, so you have to worry about having a hard-sided camper instead of just a tent.
What about, again, as you put these works together, again, by the way, you're listening to Lewis at Large, yours truly, Warner Lewis from the Flight Deck here, talking to Larry Powalisz. Again, he and his wife Lynn have put together a series of children's books about our national parks, a series, one leads to another, one called Grand Color Spectacle, and then one called Ice Blue Grandeur, to be followed soon by a third book taking place in Yosemite National Park. How did you choose those particular parks, and what about those intrigued you more than with all the collection of national parks that we have around the country?
Well, I took the 20 parks I was focusing on before 19. Well, it's part of the story, so I don't want to give that out. But I took 20 parks that were already part of the national park system by 1939, and took my favorites. One of my favorites is Grand Canyon, Yosemite. We live an hour and a half from Mount Rainier, which is absolutely spectacular. And Glacier was always one of my favorites. We've been to Haleakala. So that's where we took the favorite ones, and the whole thing with the latitude, longitudes, that's whole part of the picture as far as gathering clues.
Okay, so again, you've kind of hinted at it a little bit, but kind of give us the plot and the premise for this series. Take us through that just a little bit without revealing too much.
Okay, the first book, they take the characters take a hike down to Phantom Ranch in Grand Canyon, and they actually meet up with a guy who later contacts them, and he found something that was a letter that was written 80 years ago talking about various clues in the parks, and that's what they go by. That's the fictional park. Stephen Mather was the first superintendent of the national park in 1916, and he and several others wrote this whole, kind of like a geocaching schedule. So that's what it is. Probably one of the first geocaching schedules is what I put in the book. So they're looking at various codes, and it's all strictly related to the latitude, longitudes of various locations in the parks.
Larry, what is the age group here? What's the age range that would be appropriate for this series of books?
Well, it's a chapter book with pictures. We're looking probably, if it's a good reader, probably 8 to about 12.
So what have you introduced these to any school systems or any educational institutions yet?
No, not yet. We're still in the process. We have them all finished out. They're going to be on ebook within the next week or two, we're hoping. I want to have it all set for the 100th. However, life gets in the way, and I have so many other projects going. But that was our plan, to have it done by the 100th, which is August 25th.
The other thing, too, in this day and age, it presupposes, what about sort of a website where are there additional adventures online somewhere, or tell us about any kind of online presence you have?
We have a website, nationalparktreasures.com, and we run pictures on there, and we had a lot of plans, and now it's coming up on us, and we didn't do what we should have. But we do have the books, and like I say, they are entertaining and educational. And I think it's so important for the kids to find out where our treasures are. And these 59 national parks, along with the 400 total in the National Park Service of monuments and historical sites, are things we need to protect and guard.
What about what kind of cooperation did you get from the Park Service, and how helpful were they as you put all this stuff together?
Actually, I didn't even use the park system. I wanted to hit them up, but you have to go at a certain time, and I didn't get the books into the system. So I ran late on that. But whenever we go to the national parks, every forest ranger I've talked to, every trail guide, they will extend their courtesy and helpfulness in every manner.
So does this go on are we going to see all the national parks ultimately in play, or what's the plan? Again, I know you haven't even finished book number 3 yet, but tell us where you see this leading. My
plan is to have 8 of them, and then they'll find the final treasure. And those are the key ones I wanted to focus on. And we may go do something after that, but those were my key focus for this because of the way it was implemented by Stephen Mather back in 1929.
So it's the same characters, but they move through different adventures in different parks. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And what do you said you're retired law enforcement. What about Lynn, your wife?
She's here's another aspect that we had is she's a Le Cordon Bleu culinary graduate. So in the books we also provide menus because campfire menus, the whole family situation, the bonding, campfire food. So we've infused menus into every book and games. So it's kind of a unique book.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun, whether a family is going to be visiting a park or, frankly, if they're not. Again, Larry Powalisz and his wife Lynn, 3 books, or 2 for sure, third on the way, Grand Color Spectacle and Ice Blue Grandeur, all about the national parks and characters that have adventures and find adventure in the parks, and a third one coming on Yosemite. Larry, how can our listeners find out more about the book series, pick up a copy, and find out a little bit more about some of the writings you and Lynn are doing?
On nationalparktreasures.com, we also have the 100th.net, which is the 100th anniversary, and I'm going to have them blended into one website. So if they go there, they'll be able to order books.
Well, Larry, I appreciate you taking time today. It sounds like this is a real labor of love for you, and congratulations. I would think a series like this could go on quite a while, and you'll have a lot of fun doing it. I assume you've got travel plans yourself for this year.
In fact, Saturday we're flying to Southern California. We'll be visiting Sequoia National Park.
All right, your life sounds a little bit too easy right now, but congratulations, you found the secret. Hey, thank you again for being on with us today, sharing this book series for kids, and best of luck to you in the future.
Warner, thanks a lot for your time. I appreciate it.
You bet. We'll be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.